Hello and welcome to another edition of Real Israelis, Real Lives, a series which was born out of the tragedies of October 7th, as we speak to ordinary Israelis who are living extraordinary lives. And our guest for today is Rabbi Dov Lipman. Rabbi Dov Lipman was a member of the 19th Knesset and is the author of 9 books about Judaism and Israel. And today he is the CEO of an organization called Yad La'olim, an organization that literally, as its name says, gives a hand to new immigrants who are making aliyah to Israel. Rabbi Lippman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Fishman. It's great to be with you and with the audience.
So could you share with us in a few brushstrokes what you were doing prior to October 7th, your organization, and what life looked like before then?
Sure. Prior to October 7th, Yad La'olim had settled into a pretty consistent mode of operation, which was, on the one hand, receiving emails throughout the day via our website at yadlolim.org, Olim who need help navigating bureaucratic issues in Israel, especially the health system, especially the education system. People needed help with the various authorities in the Interior Ministry. So we were dealing with those issues. I was also very busy on a government relations front, going to the Knesset 2, 3 times a week, going to committees that dealt with Olim issues. We had a full legislative agenda to try to make life in Israel easier, better for Olim, the process of Aliyah easier and better. And that's where we were. We were just on a day to day, waking up, doing our work. Thousands, tens of thousands of Olim having been in touch with us over the last 2 years, and that was the service that we were providing.
A tremendous need and an incredible service that you are providing. Can you share with our viewers and those who are listening, how has life pivoted and shifted both for you personally and also for the organization following October 7th?
Sure. So on a personal level, the first issue was, I was in Jerusalem on Simchat Torah on that Shabbat, and obviously was aware of what was happening all around me. And I couldn't wait for Havdalah to end the Shabbat to just call my son to find out where he was. And sure enough, he was called up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and was already at the northern border to deal with any issues from Hezbollah. Touching base with friends. I know people who are have children in elite combat units, just trying to get a sense for what was going on. And sadly, over the first few days, learned of losses of friends' children, and that kicked in. Going to funerals, going to shiva houses, as kind of an immediate reaction to what was happening. That's on a personal level. On a professional level, I didn't know at first exactly what role Yad La'olim would play, but that very quickly became apparent when a combination of things started happening. First, it was soldiers, especially lone soldiers and children of Olim who are serving, who were asking for gear, who were asking for materials, and we quickly mobilized to help with that. And thank God, over the last 50 plus days, we've helped get tens of thousands of
Wow.
pieces of equipment and clothing and materials to the soldiers, to the front lines, even being at the Gaza border before the caravan heads off into Gaza to bring the soldiers their food for the day and other needs. And our duffel bags made their way on those caravans as well. That was one area. The second area was families that reached out. Unfortunately, families that lost children and needed help with some bureaucratic issues, especially with lone soldiers. There were some issues at the very beginning with soldiers and others who weren't identified. So, and bureaucratic, government related to attached to tragedies became a role that we played as well. And now, as of late, we've also shifted into the humanitarian effort for the evacuated families. There have been a lot of requests for help on that front, and we've
Mhm.
been helping on that front. So that's on the people asking for help, and Yad Olim trying to be there to be that hand to help lone soldiers and their units, children of Olim and their units, and evacuated families, both of Olim and otherwise. I'll also tell you that on the government relations side, we also pivoted. Our whole legislative agenda changed.
Okay.
There's two primary issues that we're focusing on. One is gun permits for Olim. Israel has very strict rules regarding who can get a permit to carry a firearm. and especially Olim who haven't served in the army, and if they don't live in a quote unquote dangerous area, they're not able to get a permit to carry guns. And we were flooded with Olim who are asking, they want to be able to protect themselves, their families, and their communities. So we have a petition going, and our goal is to submit a petition of over 1,000 names to the government authorities to try to change those rules to allow Olim, again, to go through real training, go through mental health testing, but then be able to have a firearm. And then there's also one other issue which came up, which was there were a lot of Olim who had to leave the country. Their husbands went to war. They can't take care of their families by themselves. Some older people who felt that they weren't in a position to care of themselves. And there are rules in Israel about how many days you must be in Israel to be able to receive your benefits as
Ah,
Olim. And
okay.
we are now advocating on behalf of those families if they were either stuck out of Israel because of the war or had to leave Israel because of the war, that shouldn't be held against them in terms of getting their benefits. So things shifted, as you can tell, dramatically. And thank God we are blessed to be busy morning, afternoon, night, helping people and doing our part in this war effort.
That's incredible. I'm sure your phone does not stop ringing. If you've given out your personal number to anybody anymore. That's amazing. One of the things you highlighted, which I think I would like to focus on for our listeners, is the displaced persons, both from the south as well as the north. A lot of people are glued to the television, whether they're in Montreal or wherever they may be listening or watching this presentation, and they're focused on the Western media, they're focused on the news, and that has been primarily the war in Gaza that now turns our attention to the hostages and the releasing of the hostages back into Israel. A significant story that I think the Western media doesn't pick up on, which a lot of people should be aware of, is the displacement of so many Israelis from Otef Aza, from the Gaza envelope, as well as from the northern Lebanese border. Can you speak to that a little bit? What's actually going on? What's happening in Israel today in terms of these communities?
Absolutely. The immediate aftermath of October 7th was tens of thousands of families that left their homes, in some cases because they had no home to go back to, and in other
Mm.
cases it was preventative to make sure that they're not within the line of fire, both in the south, and people don't realize how many in the north, where been a constant fear of Hezbollah joining the action and actually carrying out a similar type of massacre, and that's why we have over 100,000 soldiers up north. These families have all been put into
100,000 soldiers up north.
yes,
That
yes,
that is
yes.
so important that people should be aware. There are 100,000 soldiers in the northern border of Israel today. Thank
Ab-
you.
Absolutely, because the fear of similar, there we have Hezbollah, who have also announced the same intentions as Hamas, and it's a significantly sized border, and the soldiers throughout the border and guarding communities. To be honest with you, Rabbi, last night when I went to sleep and it was raining outside here, all I could think about was soldiers all around these borders who are going to sleep in the same cold and same rain, and really troubling to know that they're out there, but again, very proud as well. So all of these families have been brought to hotels throughout Israel. Many were brought to Eilat, but to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and really all over. And I've visited with some of them, and a hotel. All of us should think about this for a moment. A hotel is a nice thing to go to, or even if you're in an emergency situation, you can handle it for a few days, maybe a week. But even a family going on vacation after a week in a hotel, everyone's going crazy and needs to go back
Right.
home. And
Right.
and all these people want to do is get to some kind of a home situation. So there have been many wonderful families that have opened their empty apartments throughout Israel to
Mhm.
gather some of those families. We've been trying to find other solutions for them as well, but it is a real challenging situation. Again, they're in hotels, they have shelter, they have food. But when you think about the trauma and the mental health element of all of this is just continuing for them as they are not yet in a situation where they can go back to their homes. And let's remember the plan on Israel's side, and there's pretty much wall to wall support for this, is that after this cease in the action ends, we are going to go in even stronger
Mhm.
to go after Hamas and if we have to Hezbollah. So we're having a little bit of a pause right now, but these families cannot go back to their homes anywhere in the near future. And that's why we're doing everything we can to try to make it easier for them. Things as small as bringing teddy bears to the children and activities for them things to make them feel special, just to try to help them with the mental health stress that they're going through. And that's a space that we've very much shifted into.
Do you think there are opportunities for people in the diaspora to come on a plane to Israel and to find ways that they can roll up their sleeves and physically contribute? I'm not talking about fighting and joining the army, but the simple number one line that we hear over and over is, what can we do? And of course, tzedakah is being given in perhaps record-breaking numbers. The philanthropic gifts which are being given, whether directly through federations across North America or Magen David Adom or some of the larger charities. But beyond writing that check, people are saying, and constantly, what can we do? Do you think there's opportunities for people to come to the country now and be of service, to be of use, or would they just be getting in the way?
So the answer is they absolutely are many things that they can do. I've been overwhelmed in the most positive of ways by the response of diaspora Jewry, both in terms of what you mentioned, the financial contributions, and in terms of people saying, what can I do to help? Just a little while ago, someone asked me, I was able to send them 20 different opportunities of farming, cooking, baking, delivering, not getting in the way at all.
Mhm.
Farmers throughout Israel need help on a regular basis, and anyone who wants to know what they can do, they can definitely reach out to me through Yad Olim. They can go to yadlaolim.org, and we will definitely guide them. We every day I'm part of all kinds of WhatsApp groups, and every day there's farmers that are asking for help, and you can 100% come here and make a real significant contribution. I will also say that at the same time, and I know you've mentioned how much tzedakah has been given, for sure, if anyone wants to direct anything towards gear for soldiers or helping the evacuated families, you can definitely go to yadlolim.org and contribute there as well. It's tax deductible in the USA and Canada, the UK and Israel. But these people who are coming on planes, I was just on a plane coming back yesterday with a mission. They were coming to do farming, and you can really feel like you're not just feel like you're part of the effort, you really are part of the effort. You really are making a difference. And therefore, I highly recommend to be in touch with me, and we can absolutely let you know about all the possibilities that are out there.
How have you seen Israeli society shift and change for the better, for the worse? What still needs to be achieved? What's happening today in Israeli society from your vantage point?
I've seen three different responses, all to me for the better. The first is the immediate unity. We were breaking ourselves apart before this and on the verge of real significant polarization that could be,
Mhm.
at a certain level, irreparable. And instantaneously, just like that, we became one people. All the barriers have come down, and that's been remarkable. And you feel it in the streets, you see it everywhere you go. That's number one. Number two is even politically, uh, there's been a shift as people. I think people were always well-meaning when they were seeking peace and compassionate towards our neighbors, but there's an awareness now that we have some serious, serious monsters living on our borders, and we have to proceed with that awareness in terms of whatever future decisions are made. There's much more unity about that. And most significantly, there's been a spiritual awakening. It's unbelievable. The soldiers, the number one thing soldiers want are tzitzit. They can't keep up with those orders. The tefillin stores in Israel can't keep up with the requests from soldiers for tefillin. And then there's also even Shabbat observance. For the first time since I lived in Israel, I moved here 19 years ago, the number one news site has this prominent display before Shabbat saying, urging people to light Shabbos candles with the candle lighting times. There's definitely been a shift. A tragedy like this, you could think maybe would pull people away from God. How could this happen? How could this be? But people are actually saying the opposite. They're saying we no longer can even trust ourselves, our great intelligence and our great army. And I'm not here to take away from anything in terms of that, but a recognition that we need to look up. We're in such a state of desperation,
Mhm.
and we're looking to God for comfort and God for strength and God for peace. And you're definitely seeing that in Israel as well. So all three of those shifts are very positive, and also to me really capture how remarkable we are as a people. That something so devastating has led to so much positive and a rejuvenated, emboldened people of Israel.
That's incredible. That's incredible. We are unfortunately out of time, but that is a beautiful place to pause. Jewish people are more unified. The Jewish people have a greater awareness of who is our neighbor living on our doorstep. And ultimately, the Jewish people are raising their eyes to the heavens to be able to have a sense of a closer connection to God. Rabbi Dov Lippman at Yad Lo'alim, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's really appreciated. Keep up and continue your incredible work, your true service to the whole country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and maybe share good news one to the other.
Amen.